Yo, welcome to this 7.0.3 Warlock class guide. What I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be going through each spec one by one. I'm going to be telling you what the best talents are for which situation and which talents are fucking useless and you want to avoid. I'm going to be talking about the stat priority for each spec, and finally I'm going to be talking about the rotation, or I should say the basic rotation for each of the specs as well. If you came purely and simply to find out which spec is the best for single target DPS, it's Demonology. At the moment, in the pre-patch, Demonology is your answer. So if you came for that, thanks for watching. See you later. But anyway, as a disclaimer before I begin the proper guide section, I guess you could say, I'm not going to be talking about the spell changes since WoD, because I think it's absolutely pointless. If you come to this video, chances are you got Warlock live and you know the spell changes already. I'm not going to be going into detail of individual spells and talents because you can read it yourself and you probably already know what they do. I'm going to be talking about this from a PvE point of view, so this is purely for raiding mainly. Everything else, if you came for PvP, questing, unfortunately this is probably not the video for you, but a lot of what I'm saying probably will still apply. Lastly, this is a guide for the pre-patch, so after Legion, when you get the artifact weapons and things like that. Even though a lot of what I'm saying will still be relevant, it's probably out of date. So if you're watching this after the 30th of August, it's probably an out of date guide. Alright, let's talk Affliction first. What I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to go through each row of talents and tell you which is the best for what situation. And I'm also going to mention the talents which you want to completely avoid because they're absolutely shit. So for Affliction, Tier 1, Rather Than Agony is generally the default choice. It's better in all situations where there's an actual boss, because as long as you can keep the stack up to 20 and keep it up, it's the best DPS. The only time Drain Soul may be slightly better is ad fights, Hellfire Assault for example. You can't get the Agony stacks to 20 and keep them up all the time, so Drain Soul then wins out. Horn, you just want to completely avoid because it's absolutely shit. Kind of fills the same role as Drain Soul, but Drain Soul is better, so yeah, avoid Horn at all costs. For Tier 2, Absolute Corruption is generally the default choice. It's a DPS increase guaranteed in 2 or more targets. For a single target, technically Contagion is better, but it's very fiddly to use and requires good RNG a lot of the time with shard procs because you want to keep Unstable Affliction up 100% of the time or as close to as possible. So it's only slightly ahead of Absolute Corruption in terms of damage, but it has the chance to work against you with RNG, so if you want a safe choice, Absolute Corruption at all times is probably the better way to go. Thankfully, Mana Tap is the worst out of the 3 choices, and it's a fucking shit talent to use anyway, so yeah, you can just avoid Mana Tap, don't bring it. This row, again, brain dead mechanics here. Demon Skin's better. You've never used these in PvE at all. I mean, there's actually no point, so yeah, Demon Skin's the best. For this row, generally, Siphon Life is the best choice. It's best for single target, it's best for council fights, so you want to be using it on those situations. Solar Seeds is better, obviously, for AoE, but considering it's like a 2.5 second cast time and a bit shitty to use, other classes can do a much better job than you can, and so those situations it may be worth taking Siphon Life anyway. Soul Harvest is just a shit spell. It's not Dark Soul 2.0, it's just awful. It only lasts 10 seconds, maybe a little bit more with some agony dots up, and you just want to avoid it all times really. Siphon Life's better. For this row, Dark Pact is your default choice. The other two can be situational, I guess, but in my opinion, I don't really see a time when these two are actually better than Dark Pact. I mean, nothing beats a nice little shield for a cooldown, so. This row, Service is going to be your general default choice here. For single target and for council fights, Service wins. For AoE, Sacrifice may win, and I say may because it's weaker than it is for Destruction. So Service is a good, nice safe choice you want to take. Sacrifice, if you want a bit of extra splash damage for AoE, maybe fights like Zul'Harak or Hellfire Council. Sorry, not Hellfire Council, the fuck I'm talking about. Hellfire Assault. They're the times when Sacrifice may be better, but otherwise, Service is the best choice. For the last tier, on 1 target and for 2 target fights, even though I think the only 2 target fight in WoD is the Twin Ogrons in High Maul. I think that's the only one. So generally single target, Soul Effigy is the best. For everything else, 3 targets and above, Soul Conduit is the best. Phantom Singularity is just a shit spell all around. it's too weak to be a 1 minute cooldown spell. It might be worth it if it was, say, 20-second cooldown, something like that, but it's not. It's 1 minute. It's useless. Don't take it at all. So let's just quickly mention stat priority. Now, I've done a lot of sims myself. I've seen people do sims on the forums. I've talked about it a bit with a few people, and this is how it is. Haste is the best, followed by mastery, followed by crit, and then followed by versatility. So if you want a safe way to go, gems, enchants, put everything on haste, because that'll yield you the best DPS. If you want to avoid gears that have got versatility on, you can do that as well. So that's generally the stat priority. For rotation, let's just talk the basics first. Obviously, if you're a single target, Soul Effigy is the one, the talent of choice here. So you're going to cast your Soul Effigy and you're going to maintain your 3 dots on your main target and your effigy at all times. You're going to be using Doomguard and Grimoire on your main target, not your effigy. And you're going to be using Unstable Affliction on your main target and not your effigy. You want to be saving Unstable Afflictions for Trinket procs only. The only other situation is if you cap at 5 shards, you use a Unstable Affliction just so you don't cap. So, generally speaking, when you start a fight, you're just going to want to put all your dots up and send your pet in. Get the Doomguard on the go. Cast your Soul Effigy, put the dots on that as well. Grimoire in there. And that's it really. And you want to probably make your effigy your focus target. Well, that's it. Otherwise, you're just waiting for shard procs, trinket procs, so you can combine that with your Unstable Affliction. So, for example, there, I'm just going to plug all my Unstable Afflictions in the main target because I've got a trinket proc. Well, that's generally it. I mean, it's not exactly a difficult rotation for a single target. It's just about maintaining dots and using Unstable Affliction at the right time. So, yeah, that's how that works. I'm not going to go on because obviously it's pointless to watch me just over and over again. Alright, let's talk Demonology next. Now, there's actually a cheese strategy you can do with Demonology to do with the Hellfire Citadel Forcer and the Archimon Trinket. So I'll talk about the end, but I'll talk about normally first. So, talents. Tier 1 is actually very well balanced in terms of DPS. Shadow Flame, however, requires the most amount of effort to produce that same defense. You need to keep it at 3 seconds at all times, and you need to use it properly. So, in my opinion, you can just avoid using Shadow Flame because it produces the same results for the most amount of work. Demonic Calling is slightly better, you could argue, with higher haste levels because it guarantees it to proc. However, because it is RNG, I'd probably recommend taking Shadow Inspiration as it's the safest option and produces practically the same DPS anyway. So, yep, Shadow Inspiration is probably the talent of choice. This tier, Improved Judge Stalkers is the best for 1 target or 2 targets. Impending Doom is better for 3 targets or more. Implosion is good for burst AoE, but that's it really. I mean, it's good for burst AoE, but overall, if there's 3 or more targets that live long periods of time, Impending Doom actually beats Implosion in terms of AoE damage, which is quite funny, but yeah. So, tier 3, like with Affliction, Demon Skin, default choice. Morcall is shit. Shadow Fury is even worse because it's got a fucking cast time. I mean, any other class that has AoE stun, warriors, monks, demon hunters, they all can use it better. So, yeah, just avoid Shadow Fury, it's fucking shit. For this tier, Power Trip is your default choice for 1 target, 2 targets. Hand of Doom is better on 3 or more targets. However, they need to be stacked for it to obviously work effect. So, say for example, Hellfire Council, Power Chip's probably better because 2 of them are stacked and 1 of them isn't. So, in terms of that, yeah, Power Chip's probably better. So, both are all stacked, 3 or more, Hand of Doom's probably better. Soul Harvest, just avoid it because it's shit compared to the others. For this tier, again with Affliction, Dark Pact is your default choice. The other 2 are very situational, but nothing can beat a nice little shield. So, Dark Pact, only pick these if these are absolutely necessary. For this tier, Service is your default choice here because it produces the best DPS. Synergy is pretty good. I mean, it comes close to Service, but it's just not as good. So, I mean, you can choose it if you want, but just know that the best DPS results come with Service. Supremacy, you can just avoid it because it's fucking shit. So, final tier, Demon Bolt and Soul Conduit are actually very close in terms of DPS. However, Demon Bolt probably comes ahead simply because of the Forset bonus. Trinket, should I say, that produces extra imps, so your Demon Bolt will be buffed more than usual. So yeah, Demon Bolt is your default choice for a single target. Soul Conduit if you want. Generally though, more than one target, so 2 or more, Summon Dark Lair becomes bear, but you need to use it properly. So for example, you need to make sure it's buffed instantly, and you need to make sure Doom's on everything and stays on everything. So yeah, generally, single target, Demon Bolt, 2 or more targets, Summon Dark Lair. Alright, in terms of stat priority, Haste is the best. Mastery and Crit are about the same, but due to obviously having more wild imps with the Trinket, Mastery is probably slightly better than Crit in this pre-patch. So Haste, Mastery, Crit, Versatility is probably the stat priority you want to go to. So yeah, I mean, much like with Affliction, if you want to enchant anything, just go with Haste. Alright, let's talk single target rotation. Now, as a rule of thumb, you want to use every pet summon on cooldown, and you want to cast Demonic Empowerment after every single pet summon. So that's generally how the rotation works. Every pet on cooldown, Demonic Empowerment after every summon. So, before you start though, obviously you want to cast Demonic Empowerment because it buffs your pet and gives you a free Demon Bolt to open with. Now when you do cast the Demon Bolt to open, you'll automatically have 2 shards, so you'll be able to summon Doomguard and Grimoire Felguard immediately, so you can buff them. Then it's just a case of summoning Call Dreadstalkers on cooldown, and if you hit 4 shards, you can cast Hand of Gul'dan. If you don't think you're going to hit the 2 shards before the Dreadstalker's cooldown comes off cooldown, you can use Hand of Gul'dan with 3 shards instead. That's just how that works. But it's just a case of learning the rotation as you go, practicing a bit. It's not a hard rotation, it's actually pretty fun. It's a lot of movement. And yeah, the only other thing is keep doing it at all times. I'm going to cast it right after my first Demon Bolt. So apart from that, yeah, just keep it. Alright, so here we go. So open with that, get Doom up, Doomguard, Felguard, buff them up, Bellstorm on the go, Dreadstalkers, fresh Doom now, 3 Demon Bolts, there's Hand of Gul'dan, buff up the imps. So now reach a point where Call Dreadstalkers is just going to get clipped a bit, but that's not so bad. And there we go. That's the basic rotation anyway. Looks awesome with the Forset and Trinket, just how many minions spawn. So, but yeah, I mean, that's generally it's quite a fun rotation and get to see lots of demon action. Just need to make sure you manage your mana properly, because it is a problem after a while that you do get short of mana a lot. So I mean, if you've got like a weak aura like mine, it just tells you when you're low on mana, and that's about it really. So yeah, that's how that one works anyway. Alright, so like I said, I was going to talk about the cheese strategy afterwards. Now this requires the Forset from Hellfire Citadel, and also requires the Fragment of the Dark Star. Now what this cheese strategy does is these Hellhound here that you can see here give a fuckload of damage, and they are your main source of damage in this cheese strategy. So you want to be taking Tread Inspiration, combat with the tank one, I think. Yep. So I'm taking Impending Doom, Hand of Doom, Service. You can take Service or Synergy, it doesn't matter too much. I'm going to take Synergy because it's less buttons to press, and Soul Conduit. So this is the talent setup, and the rotation is very, very straightforward. You want to be casting Empowerment, Shadow Bolt, Hand of Gul'dan. Empowerment, Shadow Bolt, Hand of Gul'dan. That's it, over and over again. You automatically get the Doom up because of Hand of Doom, and you don't need to cast Call Dreadstalkers because it's a DPS increase just to not cast it. So, I mean, it's so simple. It just consists of spamming Hand of Gul'dan over and over again. And the reason it works, let me just close that, is because the Hand of Gul'dan, every time it goes down, it has a chance to summon these demons. So as you can see, I've just got absolutely loads of demons out, even after the first 10-15 seconds. It just looks ridiculous, and it's easy to use. And yeah, it produces absolutely insane results, especially if there is more than one target, because then everything gets the doom hits and you get more imps, so you get more demon summons from the imp's fireball, etc. But yeah, that's the G strategy anyway. Just 3-button rotation that produces awesome results, but you need a certain gear setup to do it. I just thought that's worth mentioning because yeah, it's very funny and easy to use. So that's that one anyway. And last but not least is Destruction. So let's talk talents first. Roaring Blaze is the best DPS increase out of this row on pure single target, and mainly anything you can cast it on and get the full use out of it, it's generally the best DPS increase. Shadowburn is better where you can't make the full use out of Roaring Blaze, and there's lots of ads that die a lot. So say for example, first boss of Hellfire Citadel, Hellfire Assault, Shadowburn is better than Roaring Blaze because you can use Shadowburn all the time, and you can't really get the full benefits of Roaring Blaze. Now, even on fights like Zul'Harak, where there's lots of ads that die very quickly, Roaring Blaze is still better than Shadowburn, simply because you can Havoc onto 2 targets and get 2 targets going with the full 2 stacks of Roaring Blaze. And it's just, overall, that's a better DPS increase than casting Shadowburn every now and again on some imps. So just be very aware that Shadowburn is a safe choice for ad fights, but Roaring Blaze is generally better in most situations. So I mean, as a rule of thumb, if there's a boss there, Roaring Blaze is better. If there's not a boss and there's loads of ads or, you know, faces change, whatever, Shadowburn might be better there. Backdraft is all around just a shit talent. It's just not as good as the other two, and it gets even worse with more haste because the window becomes less, even though obviously it's still the same amount of casting, the same amount of time. Add any kind of movement or boss mechanics in there, and Backdraft gets incredibly worse incredibly fast. So yeah, just avoid Backdraft, pick one of the other two. As for tier 2, Burst Entropy is generally the talent of choice. It's good in single target, cleave, 3 target council fights, whatever. Cataclysm is only better if you can get full use of it off cooldown. So say there's 5 or more targets and you can use it on those targets every 45 seconds. So say for example Mana Off, that's a good fight. Imps come in every 50 seconds or so. Yeah, and if you can Cataclysm them and get a few immolate ticks, that's probably better, but otherwise Reverse Entropy is the talent of choice. Mana Tap is arguably just as good as Reverse Entropy. However, because it requires a lot more fiddly shit and it kind of interrupts the rotation with Mana Tap, Life Tap, etc., you can just avoid it. Even if it was a DPS increase, it's very, very small to the point where it's probably not worth it. You know, add human error and things like that. Mana Tap's not going to be your best choice. Reverse Entropy all the way. As with Demonology, Affliction, Demon Skin is the only talent choice. This is shit, this is worse. For this tier, Eradication is generally the best choice. You need to use it properly though, and it's especially good with Roaring Blaze, because if you can get, say for example 4 shards, you can cast the Chaos Bolt into the Roaring Blaze, and then cast the Chaos Bolt again, and you'll get the double effect of Eradication, so most of the immolate damage will be buffed by Eradication, which is very nice. It's very nice interaction. I like this talent a lot. Just need to make sure you play with it properly. Fire and Brimstone is good for pure AoE and nothing else. Even on short-lived ads, it's probably not a good idea to use it. So say for example, if you pick a fight like Zul'Harak, where you know there's imps every 30 seconds, I can't remember the actual spawn time rates, but they only last a few seconds. You may get like 1 or 2 full effects of Fire and Brimstone off, but that's it, and because of that it's not very good. Eradication is simply better. So maybe fights like Iskar and Hellfire Assault, it's good for that, but everything else it's probably not worth it. Soul Harvest is like the specs shit, so there's no point. As with the other specs as well, Dark Pact is your default choice. These two are simply situational, but just pick Dark Pact mainly because it's good in all situations. For this tier, Service is technically better on single target. Sacrifice comes close on single target, but Service is generally better. However, on 2 targets or more, and if they're obviously close together, or any ad fights, Sacrifice is better. So, as a rule of thumb, single target Service, 2 or more targets Sacrifice. I mean, you can even play with Sacrifice on single target, and it'll probably net you around about the same DPS as Service. So yeah, it's generally either one of these is fine. Supremacy, just like with the specs, is shit, so no point picking it. As for last tier, this is really simple. Single target, soul conduit, 2 or more targets, or, say cleave targets, anything you get the full use of these wreak havoc. Wreak havoc is better. If the ads are very short-lived and it's mainly a boss with some very, very random sporadic ads, normal havoc will do the job absolutely fine. So soul conduit, say for example on Archimond, soul conduit's probably better than wreak havoc, even though there's 2 targets a lot. If they only last, say, 10 or 15 seconds and there's big downtime, there's no point in choosing Wreak Havoc, it's just a bit of a waste. But, anything like, say, for example, Hellfire Council, Wreak Havoc's obviously better because you can get a lot of use out of it. Channel Demon Fire is incredibly weak and is just a shit spell to use, so there's just no point in picking it, you can just ignore it. Alright, as for stat priority, this has changed a lot since the WoD iteration of Destruction, because Haste is actually now your best secondary stat to use, so you can put everything in Haste, you'll do well because it works for Demonology and for Affliction as well. After Haste though, it's probably Critical Strike, because of the card that we're Immolate and obviously Chaos Bolt works with crit. Then bottom last is actually a mixture between Mastery and Versatility. Versatility technically becomes just ahead of Mastery, however any of these you can just consider them third place tie, and Haste and Crit are the best ones to use. So put everything into Haste, like with the other 2 specs, you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, let's talk single target rotation. Now, unlike WoD, the majority of your damage is going to come from Immolate, thanks to Roaring Blaze. Now, depending on your level of Haste, this might change, but what I do is I cast Immolate twice in a row to get the full Pandemic effect, then cast Conflagrate twice in a row to get 2 stacks of Roaring Blaze. Then when my next charge of Conflagrate comes off, I cast it one more time to get 3 stacks of Roaring Blaze. Then I let everything fall off, including Immolate, and start it all over again, because my level of Haste means that everything lines up perfectly, more or less, and I am able to do that every single time. So if you struggle to follow me, then I'll just show you what I mean. So Immolate twice in a row, followed by Conflagrate twice in a row. Then I'll wait for my next charge of Conflagrate to come off, and I cast it again. So that's now 3 stacks of Roaring Blaze. Obviously I'll be casting other stuff in between there, but I'm just showing you what it is. So now I've got 3 stacks, I'll just let everything fall off. So Immolate's about to fall off now, and then I'll start it all over again, because it lines up perfectly. So here we go, Immolate twice in a row, Conflagrate twice in a row, and yeah, just starts all over again. Now, things might change every now and again, because for example then I got, proc? Enchant proc. So if you have to delay 1 or 2 seconds, like sometimes I have to do, that's fine, so, okay. In between there though, you want to be casting Chaos Ball and Incinerate. You want to be casting Chaos Ball to try and get the eradication window for as long as possible, so generally I find that Chaos Ball, Incinerate, then start again. Gives a good window, gives the best effect, and if you get lots of Soul Conduit procs, it becomes a decent rotation. So yeah, that's generally what I do with that. Alright, so I'll just show you it all together now, when everything's reset. Alright, here we go. See if we can get that eradication window. Oh yep, they got it. That's it. I mean, that's all it's about really, just making sure you do the Immolate properly and eradication windows. I mean, I've getting quite a few Soul Conduit procs here, which is quite nice. Look at them. I mean, generally I can get 2 Incinerates in between the Chaos Bolts for the windows. I've been quite lucky with some Soul Conduit procs here, but that's okay. Anything that makes it better. Just cast those. Oops, I've missed in Immolate there, but there we go. I mean, that's the general rotation anyway of what you want to be doing. You just want to be casting the 3 Conflagrates during the Pandemic, Immolate, and if you can use the eradication windows from Chaos Bolts. I mean, if Soul Conduit procs a lot like it did for me there, that's even better, but yeah, that's generally how you do it. So anyway, I hope you learned something, I guess, from these 3 sections. If you want to know what spec I'm choosing at the moment, I'm choosing the Cheese Demonology because it produces the best DPS for raids. But if you do have any questions about any of the specs at all, just leave them in the comments below, and if I can get back to you in a few days, I will. Alright, so peace. Catch you later.